Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into part 2 of the basics of candlesticks. Get ready because we're breaking down even more essential details to level up your trading game. If you're new here, don't worry, I've got you covered. Check out part 1 of the Candlestick Basics series. The link's in the description below, so go catch up. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's dive in. What is a candlestick pattern? This is a method of reading price charts. The key components of candlesticks are the opening price, the highs of the session, the low of the session, and the closing price. This means a whole lot different in different time frames. We'll cover the details in this video. How do you read candlestick patterns? As we said earlier, a candlestick chart is made up of the open, close, highs, and lows of a session. Candlesticks are typically displayed in two main colors, green and red, or sometimes black and white. You can customize the colors to your liking, but green and red are the most common. Green candlesticks. These indicate that the price closed higher for a session. The bottom of the body represents the opening price. The top of the body represents the closing price. The black line or wick above shows the high of the session, and the wick below shows the low. Red candlesticks. These indicate that the price closed lower for a session. The top of the body represents the opening price. The bottom of the body represents the closing price. The wick above shows the high, while the wick below shows the low. The main difference between green, bullish, and red, bearish, candlesticks is the position of the open and close. A bullish bar, green, shows prices closing higher, while a bearish bar, red, shows prices closing lower for a session. Candlestick patterns are made up of two main parts, the body, over here, and the wick, right here. These are the two main parts of a candlestick. Okay, a candlestick tells you who's pretty much in control. So you can see that in this case, the buyer's opening price is over here, and the buyers push the price all the way higher, finally closing at the end of the session. However, we can't neglect this black shadow over here. What this means is that there is a price rejection, this rejection of higher prices. When you look at this, it actually tells you that this was the high. What it means is that after the buyers moved the price from this level to this level, the sellers pushed the price down a bit to this level, finally making the close of the session. So this is actually a price rejection. In this video, we'll cover three fundamental aspects of candlesticks. The first thing is the body, and the second is the wick. Now, the third thing I want to tell you is a question most beginner traders ask, which is, what is the body relative to the wick? Okay, so over here we have the same thing as before, but the message is totally different. We can see the body and the wick. Over here is the open, and here is the close. But this time around we have a very massive black shadow, which is the wick, longer than the size of the body. This is totally different from this image over here. This time around, what this means is that the price opened over here, and buyers pushed the price to this level. But sellers stepped in and rejected that price, reducing the price to this level and ending up closing over here. There was a massive amount of seller pressure, a strong price rejection that actually pushed the price lower during the session. So in a candlestick, we have 1, the body, 2, the wick, 3, the size of the body relative to the wick. Usually, if the wick is much longer or higher than the body, it's a sign of price rejection. And that's how you read candlestick patterns with these three key details. So moving on, let's look at a few variations of candlestick patterns. This first one over here is one that is very familiar to us. We're going to explain everything in detail to understand how this candlestick is formed. For this first one, the price opened over here. Sellers pushed the price down lower, but buyers rejected that price and pushed it higher to this level. Then sellers also rejected that price, pushing it back down to this place, marking the close of the session. In this case, this is a bullish candlestick, because at the end of the session, the buyers were in control. For this second candle, the price opened over here and closed over here. When the market opened, the price initially came down lower. Sellers were in control. Then buyers took charge and pushed the price all the way up higher toward these highs. Finally, sellers came back in and the market closed at this price level. Generally, the meaning behind this is indecision in the market. Both buyers and sellers were present. This is what we call an indecision candlestick pattern. Now, if you look at this last candlestick pattern, the price opened over here. Sellers were in control at first, immediately taking the price lower. Then, buyers took charge, reversed the trend, and the session finally closed near the highs. The meaning of this pattern is rejection of lower prices. Buyers are clearly in control. Moving on, there isn't much else to go through here. The next step is simply the opposite of what we've just shared, a selling version of this. I'll leave this as a test for you. Figure it out, write it down in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button. Now let's do a quick recap. A candlestick chart shows you who's in control. Now, pay attention to the body, the wick, and the body relative to the wick, because higher wicks show signs of price rejection. It is very important to keep a close watch on these components when reading a candlestick chart. For example, if you have a bullish close but with a long wick, it's still a sign of price rejection. Moving on. Earlier I mentioned that candlesticks can appear on different time frames, like the daily, 1 hour, weekly, and so on. If you look at this, this is a candlestick chart at the 1 hour time frame. This means that every hour, one of these bars will be painted. This bar is painted for 1 hour, same goes for this one and this also. If this is the daily time frame, it means that every 24 hour, one of these bars will be painted. At the end of 24 hours, this bar will be completed. Same goes for this and every bar here. So now the next step is combining candlestick patterns. Candlestick patterns show you the price open for a given session. And these candlesticks in a specific time frame can be combined to get the results of what a candlestick will be on a higher time frame. For example, if you look at this, if this is a 1 hour time frame, the first is a 1 hour candlestick, and the second is also a 1 hour candlestick. So when you combine these candlestick patterns, this over here will be a 2 hour candlestick. 1 hour plus 1 hour equals 2 hours. How did this 2 hour candlestick come about? Well, it's quite easy. The 2 hour candlestick identifies the highs over the last 2 hours, the lows over the last 2 hours, and the opening price of the first hour and the closing price of the second hour. So if you take a good look at this, this is the open over here, this is the close, this is the highs, and here are the lows. So the opening price of the first hour will be the opening price of the 2 hour candle. Get it? Okay, let's move on. Where are the highs? Well, the highs are literally the highest point or price between these two candles. The highs of the first and second hour are literally the same. So this is the highs. What about the lows? The lows are essentially the lowest point between these two 1 hour candlesticks. The lows are actually the lows over here, which come from the second hour candlestick. And the close is actually the close of the second candle, which is this close over here. That's why the 2 hour candle closed at this level. Okay, a quick recap of what we just learned. Number 1, candlesticks can be viewed on different time frames, either hourly, weekly, or monthly. At times, you can still view them in much lower time frames, like 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, and so on, as you like. Number 2, candlesticks can be combined from lower time frames to produce a single candlestick in a higher time frame. For example, 2 30-minute candlesticks can be combined to form one 1 hour candlestick, reflecting the same price action but on a higher time frame. That's a wrap for this video, but don't miss part 3 where we'll dive into using candlesticks like a pro to secure those perfect entry points in price action trading. It's going to be exciting, so see you there. And if you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe now for more game-changing trading insights and updates.